Hip-hop is all about aspiration and fulfilling your dreams. But there are some rappers who had all the money and all of the success, but have seemingly thrown it all down the drain. Here are 10 rappers facing life sentences. Young Thug. This case was described by one federal prosecutor as probably one of the biggest trials ever to happen in Atlanta. It's up there with the big high-profile civil rights cases that have happened. Young Thug, a rapper at the peak of his powers, could be spending the rest of his life behind bars. The rapper is the leader of the rap group Young Slime Life, but this group is also believed to be a criminal gang with the same structure. Young Thug has had minor convictions against him before, but has something on him known as a RICO charge, which is now being used on rappers left, right, and center. The RICO Act was brought in the 1970s in order to tackle the Italian mafia. They found that with many of these gangs, the criminal work was done by lower-ranked members of the mob, while the bosses were squeaky clean. So this RICO Act can charge you with promoting or leading a criminal enterprise, despite not being directly involved in any criminal activity. So Young Thug is culpable for being the alleged leader of YSL's criminal activity. Young Thug has a total of 62 charges against him, and his trial has made judges and jurors argue whether a rapper's persona and a rapper's real life are the same thing. Believe it or not, the music from Young Thug we all know and love will be used in a courtroom as evidence.
It's going to change the course of the trial because now they'll be able to use all of these lyrics that were previously recorded, believing that they had artistic expression under the First Amendment, will now be able to be used against them.
If Young Thug the rapper and Young Thug the person are one and the same, then many prosecutors believe that the lyrics from artists in YSL are direct statements from a gang leader, and Young Thug as the leader is charged as furthering and promoting the criminal activity of its 27 other members. This includes charges of racketeering, drug dealing, and most importantly of all, murder. That being said, he is directly linked to some major crimes. In 2015, a drive-by shooting occurred where a man named Donovan Thomas was killed. This drive-by was done by a driver using an Infiniti Q50 sedan, a car that Young Thug had rented. Additionally, there was a non-fatal shooting of Lil Wayne's tour bus, and the person who carried out this shooting dialed Young Thug's cell phone afterward. Young Thug is obviously not short of any money and has filed for a bond on 4 separate occasions. Each time he has been denied because he presents a possible danger to the community. His trial has taken so long because they need to find the right jury. For this case to be assessed properly, they need 12 members of the public to be able to sacrifice 6 to 9 months of their lives to look through the mountains of evidence related to all of these crimes. 1,200 jurors are expected to be summoned, all of which have to come into this case without any preconceived actions. So obviously, any Young Thug or YSL fans will not qualify. And finding someone in Atlanta who has no preconceived thoughts or opinions about Young Thug is no easy task. YFN Lucci, and someone from Atlanta who has a very negative opinion of Young Thug is YFN Lucci. He was a relatively hot rapper in the 2010s and had a massive hit with Migos called Key to the Streets. Something which also helped draw in the spotlight for him has been his on and off relationship with Lil Wayne's daughter Regine. His feud with Young Thug has also helped him turn more heads too. Their beef apparently started when Young Thug declared himself the new Tupac Shakur, and Lucci decided to call him out on this comparison and then went on to say that he slept with his girlfriend. But these two sworn enemies have a lot more in common with each other than they think. Both of them have been hit with RICO charges, and Lucci is accused of being affiliated with an Atlanta branch of the Crips. Like Young Thug, his music lyrics and social media posts are being heavily scrutinized for direct evidence of criminal activity. He is also believed to have driven 3 gang members into rival territory, which led to a gun battle where someone was killed. The indictment also says that the YFN studio is more than just a studio. The YFN studio, located on West Peachtree Street in Atlanta, is a central point for the group and a notorious stronghold. YFN has continued to attract additional associates as Bennett gained notoriety, the indictment says. A warrant for his arrest went out in December 2020, and a month later, he turned himself in. His lawyer said he's absolutely not a gang member, and this indictment, neglectfully or purposely, fails to say that Mr. Bennett is a nationally and internationally recognized musical artist. His lawyer has also hit out at the police for going through his social media and overanalyzing his posts to suit their agenda. To sit and analyze somebody's social media account and to try to somehow find some evidence of a crime is ridiculous when people are just really expressing themselves through social media. Lucci himself has released the statement, "Thank you all for your prayers and continued support. I am still incarcerated right now, but am maintaining my innocence. To all my fans who have continued to show love and support, I'll have some new music and content on the way." His attorney has also brought up the fact that he is a famous artist, but Atlanta Police Chief Rodney Bryant said that prosecuting major artists like YFN Lucci and Young Thug will show that mean business when it comes to cracking down on crime. I think that it sends a significant message, a profound message that regardless of your status, that the city of Atlanta and Fulton County in partnership is coming after you if you violate the crimes in our county, in our city. As we'll see further into this video, the RICO charge could change hip-hop. This doesn't mean that drill rappers will start rapping about flowers and puppies instead, but they will probably refrain from directly talking about specific incidents in what's been referred to as self-snitching. Suge Knight. Next up is someone who is technically not a rapper, but still one of the most feared men in hip-hop history. I'm of course talking about Marion Suge Knight. Although there are many conspiracy theories and urban legends about who this man has killed, what we do know is that he was involved in the manslaughter of a Compton businessman named Terry Carter. CCTV footage showed Suge Knight's vehicle reversing and running over two people. While this could be excused as incredibly reckless driving at first, the truck comes back and runs over one of the people a second time. Knight's main defense was that he thought he was being ambushed and that this killing was out of self-defense. His appearances back in court were dramatic, to say the least.
To the man who was once the most feared figure in all of hip-hop. But here he is now, Suge Knight, a former rap powerhouse, collapsing in court, where he's facing a murder charge. The man who built an empire, founding Death Row Records, now facing life in prison.
The reason for fainting was quite simple, as his lawyer explained.
They lock him up in jail in solitary confinement. He can't get his diabetes medicine. He was dripping sweat like someone threw a bucket of water on him.
Another courtroom incident also went viral and showed the incredibly sinister side of Suge that made him hip-hop's most feared man. After he sits down, he seemingly gives the death stare. And again, and again. It is not clear exactly who Suge was staring at and why, but again, the internet will of course come up with a bunch of theories as to what happened. The judge and jury felt that this killing was not out of self-defense. But because this was clearly not a premeditated killing, he was charged with voluntary manslaughter, which accounted for 22 years in prison. This 22-year sentence was technically not a life sentence, but it was here where Suge's past came back to haunt him. California has a controversial third strike bill. Inspired by baseball, if you already have 2 serious or violent convictions against yourself, you will automatically end up with a life sentence. Or as they say in a ball game, 3 strikes and you're out. This brought Suge's sentencing from 22 years up to 28 and into a full life sentence. This trial took place in 2018 when Suge was in his mid-50s, so it's likely that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. He is currently incarcerated in the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego and will not be eligible for parole until 2034. Another rumor circulating is that Suge's lawyer managed to scrape 15 years off his life sentence, so perhaps this isn't the last we've heard of the infamous Suge Knight. Tory Lanez. This was one of the biggest cases in recent hip-hop history, featuring not 1, but 2 major stars.
Well, rapper and singer Tory Lanez is expected to be sentenced today for the 2020 shooting of hip-hop star Megan Thee Stallion.
After a pool party at Kylie Jenner's house, Tory Lanez was driving home Megan Thee Stallion and her PA and friend Kelsey Harris. Suddenly, Lanez pulled over and told Megan to get out. A police report reveals an incredibly sadistic side to Tory Lanez. As the victim began to walk away from defendant wearing only a bikini and no shoes, defendant mocked victim with "dance bitch" as he opened fire in her direction. With no justifiable reason, defendant fired not just 1 but up to 5 rounds in the direction of victim in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Megan was later claimed to be a snitch for testifying. This is one of the many factors that have made it hard for her to come forward, and Megan has taken this case to send an important message. As this news report reveals,
Megan testified on the consequences she has faced by bringing this case to court, but has felt the need to amplify the struggle Black women face in getting criminal justice as victims and feeling protected as women in the rap industry.
During her testimony, Megan said, "I can't hold conversations with people for a long time. I don't feel like I want to be on this earth. I wish he would have just shot and killed me if I knew I would have to go through this torture." Lanez was convicted of 3 things: assault with a semi-automatic handgun, having a loaded and unregistered firearm in a vehicle, and gross negligence discharging his firearm. There was much speculation as to what the incident was about. Some suggest that he was jealous of Megan's rise to stardom, but there are no justifiable reasons for this behavior. According to TMZ, Lanez has shown some remorse. He apparently texted Megan with, "I know you probably never gonna talk to me again, but I genuinely wanted to know. I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. I was just too drunk. Nonetheless, should have never happened, and I can't change what I did. I just feel horrible because I genuinely just got too drunk." But Lanez's latest album paints a slightly different picture. It was titled Sorry for What, but Lanez has clarified that this title has nothing to do with his incident with Megan. He said, "I'm just trying to stay positive and do good stuff. I'm just staying positive, but being unapologetically myself." Lanez faces a maximum of 22 years in prison prison, but also a minimum of 9. So this is not technically a life sentence, but not too far off it either. The sentence of at least 9 years has been described as incredibly harsh, but Deputy Los Angeles County District Attorney Alexander Bott responded to this criticism with, "So I would say that anytime you point a gun at someone and pull the trigger 5 times, that's an action that could easily kill a person. I think that's an action that deserves serious consequences." YNW Melly. Like many of the rappers on this list, YNW Melly has the world at his feet but seems to have thrown it all away. He was a talented SoundCloud rapper, but his life changed forever in October 2018. Melly was driving home from the studio alongside fellow members of his YNW group Juvie and Sackche. Also in the car was the rapper's friend Cortland Henry. According to Melly, they were suddenly ambushed by a drive-by shooting. A vehicle drove up to their car and fired bullets, which resulted in the death of Juvie and Sackche, who were both on the left side of the vehicle. Melly and Henry brought them to A&E, but by then it was too late. From the outside, this looked like a horrific tragedy for Melly, who had lost 2 of his friends. In February 2019, the plot thickened. The forensics showed that the bullets fired at these 2 victims did not come from a drive-by across the road, but from bullets inside the vehicle. The police tracked the locations of everyone via their smartphones, and it turns out that they were not taken to A&E until 45 minutes after the shooting. The Miramar Police Department said the victims, Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas Jr., were killed on October 26, 2018. The investigation, supported by forensic evidence, has concluded that demons shot and killed Williams and Thomas Jr., and that demons and Henry staged the crime scene to resemble a drive-by shooting. Melly is now the prime suspect and was arrested in February 2019. By November, he decided to make the best of a bad situation and release his first album. The death penalty was dropped in July 2022 and then was appealed and reintroduced in November. This was brought to a Supreme Court which refused to hear it, meaning that the ultimate ruling is the death penalty. The aggregating factor that will spur on the death penalty case is whether the crime was gang-related, but it's completely unclear as to why Melly would just kill 2 of his friends. One of the details that came out was that one of the victims was caught sending nudes to Melly's girlfriend at the time. Other sources have pointed to an argument over money, and YNW Sackchaser allegedly threatening Melly's mother, Jamie King. Despite what the police have said, YNW Melly maintains that he is innocent. He released this statement: "I want you guys to know I love you and appreciate every single one of y'all. A couple months ago, I lost my 2 brothers by violence, and now the system wants to find justice. Unfortunately, a lot of rumors and lies are being said, but no worries, God is with me. That being said, a lot of the evidence is stacked against him. For all we know, Melly could walk out of this a free man. But on the other side of the coin, he could be facing the death penalty too." C Murder. Next up, I'm going to talk about a famous rapper currently sitting behind bars who, for many, should be a free man. C Murder was an incredibly successful rapper in the late 90s and early 2000s. His debut album peaked at number 3 in the Billboard 200, and his second album went a bit higher at number 2. As well as chart success, he got to appear alongside Snoop Dogg in the song Down For My Ends. And for a rapper who came up in the 90s, there was no bigger compliment than being able to work with Snoop. For most rappers, his life was simply a dream come true. But in 2003, his dream turned into a nightmare. He appeared at a battle rap contest at the Platinum Club in Harvey, Louisiana. At this venue, a 16-year-old fan used a fake ID to attend and got into an argument with C Murder. It was at this point that the rapper pulled out his gun and shot this kid. But as I'll get into it, this may not be 100% true. In August 2020, he received unlikely support from Kim Kardashian. And while people are sometimes quick to dismiss her as merely a reality TV star, people seem to forget that she has tried to follow in her father's footsteps to become a lawyer. She makes the relevant point that when C Murder received his life sentence, the jury's verdict was not unanimous. She tweeted, "The jury convicted Corey 2, and he was sentenced him to life in prison. If his trial was today, the jury would have had to be unanimous for him to be convicted." She added that since his trial, witnesses have recanted, new evidence of his potential innocence has come to light, and there are claims of jurors being pressured into voting to convict. One of the witnesses, Kenneth Jordan, said in 2018 that he was pressured by detectives to lie under oath or would face 10 years for criminal charges of his own. Another witness named Darnell Jordan, who is no relation to Kenneth, said that he was also pressured into lying too. C Murder told WDSU in 2018, "I've been snatched away from my family, separated from my kids, from my career, everything, and I just want it back." Despite these new revelations, there has been no reassessment of his case. He is sentenced to life without parole, and it is unknown when he will be released. On top of that, C Murder has been treated extremely poorly by the prison system. He once passed out, and instead of receiving medical treatment, he was put into solitary confinement. confinement. In February 2023, he received such poor treatment that he went on a hunger strike. His lawyer released a statement saying, "We are asking Kim Kardashian as the prison reform legal team, representing Mr. Miller, to help bring immediate public awareness to Corey's entire situation. Wrongful conviction from the state of Louisiana, the state of Louisiana's suppression of evidence, inhumane treatment/conditions in prison, and his health." Mystical. While a lot of the rappers on this list are young guys in their 20s, Mystical had a big hit known as Shake It Fast in the early 2000s and is now 52 years of age. His most recent alleged crime is pretty gruesome. This is the apparent case that was claimed against him. In July 2022, he invited a female acquaintance over to his home to discuss a financial agreement. According to the alleged victim, the evening turned sour when Mystical returned from the bathroom. Mystical is reported to have accused her of stealing money and then proceeded to choke her and pull her hair. Mystical then calmed down and proceeded to pray with her, and he rubbed alcohol on her to get rid of what he said were bad spirits. Just when things were seemingly starting to calm down, he sexually assaulted her. In the state of Louisiana, conviction of this crime comes with a mandatory life sentence, and the rapper's dark past shows that this behavior is not completely unheard of either. In 2003, he pleaded guilty to sexual assault and battery of his hairstylist. In 2012, he was arrested for domestic abuse battery, and in 2012, he was charged with rape. But these charges were later dismissed due to lack of evidence. A common response when rappers face sexual assault cases is that they are famous entertainers who are desired by many women and should not need to resort to this kind of behavior. But this kind of misses the point of the nature of these crimes.
I feel like people also think a lot of times when it's somebody in high power, a celebrity, an artist, a rapper, an athlete, that they don't have to do those kinds of things. But some of those guys still get aggressive too and, want their way and stuff. So it doesn't automatically mean that because, he's a rapper or something, he doesn't have to do that. Because a lot of times we see those are the main ones that be getting caught up in cases like this.
All that being said, Mystical is still innocent until proven guilty. On the other side of the argument, Mystical could be used as an easy target because of his dark past.
Anybody could blame something on Mystical because he has a bad reputation already. So they're going to get you first because you have a bad reputation, Mystical. You got to stay away from stuff like this.
His lawyer, Joel Pierce, is fairly confident that his client is innocent and said about the accuser, "This is about money," and they have a long history of litigating it against each other, both in family court and in civil court. Mystical has pleaded not guilty, so it's up to the courts to decide whether this incident occurred. K-Flock. K-Flock was one of the brightest stars in the New York drill scene and even got a cosign from Cardi B, who appeared on his hit single Shake It. But perhaps an even bigger moment than working with Cardi was having Meek Mill invite him on stage while performing at Madison Square Garden. K-Flock was on the cusp of international stardom, but fate had other plans for him. While some drill artists exaggerate or embellish their gang credentials, K-Flock seemed to be completely embedded with New York's Sevside DOA gang. In December 2021, he was arrested in connection with the death of 24-year-old Oscar Hernandez. Some sources claim that he may have simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. There is CCTV footage where Flock is randomly walking down the street in New York with two girls and passes by a barbershop. While this is happening, surveillance shows someone who looks like Hernandez getting out of the barbershop and walking in the same direction. The video has no sound, but people seem to be alerted by gunshots soon afterward. This footage actually works in K-Flock's favor, as it actually contradicts the police report. According to the police, K-Flock had walked into the barbershop, confronted Hernandez, and is believed to have said, "What you looking at?" K-Flock's lawyer also received further evidence that helps clear his name. In a statement, he said, "We have begun our own investigation into these allegations. More importantly, considering the DA's significant disclosure this morning that the NYPD received a tip saying someone else is the shooter, we demanded the DA's office provide prompt disclosure of the videos referenced in the complaint and more information on the tip." K-Flock's full charges include racketeering conspiracy, murder in aid of racketeering, use of a firearm resulting in death, attempted murder and assault with a dangerous weapon in aid of racketeering, use of a firearm for attempted murder, and assault with a dangerous weapon. If convicted of all of these charges, this will present him with an automatic life sentence. His charges all come down to New York's boroughs wanting to clamp down on crime as much as possible. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said in a statement, "Over a span of several years, the members of these gangs allegedly terrorized neighborhoods in the Bronx and Manhattan by killing and shooting other people. Through these charges, we will hold Sevside and Third Side members responsible for plaguing our communities with gun violence." Queso. Our next case has dumbfounded hip-hop fans across the world. Snitching is considered extremely unacceptable in hip-hop culture. But what happens when the person snitching on you is your own father? This is what happened to rapper Queso. He was charged with second-degree murder on September 11, 2021, and held on a no-bond warrant. The rapper is believed to be a member of the ATK, or Ace's top killers, and his father is believed to be their leader.
Tonight, for the first time, we're seeing an interrogation video which shows a father incriminating his son in a murder investigation.
As humans, we have a built-in instinct to protect our children. From the outside, this looks like a father throwing his child under the bus to save his own skin.
Abdul Robinson Sr. is heard on that video talking to the state attorney's office, and he says his son, Hakeem Robertson, is a shooter involved in Charles McCormick's murder.
Footage was captured from someone's car camera of someone who matches the rapper's description.
According to the state, the video shows a person running towards McCormick with an assault rifle, shoots him repeatedly, killing him.
The father told police that he believed that the person in this video was his son. A lot of people contemplated why the father didn't just lie. The story went viral, and 50 Cent posted, "Damn it, man, I've seen it all now. You can't trust nobody." However, the criminal lawyer and YouTuber Bruce Rivers have an interesting theory.
Here's the thing. The only way I see that makes sense is if they're looking at the death penalty and he says, look, I'll snitch on my son to get him to plead if you can guarantee him life. That would be the only way.
But KSO hasn't really helped himself either. He is also indicted for the murder of a drained Bibby Gaynor in 2019. Queso rather brazenly named his 2020 mixtape Bibby Out. He has several viral videos from songs where he allegedly mocks this young kid's death. Footage has been released about him being interrogated about this murder.
This video, posted on YouTube by Crime Circus, starts with Hakeem Robinson, known as rapper Queso, being escorted into an interrogation room.
They then show him a picture of Bibby and ask him if he knows who this is.
You know what that is? No, sir. You don't know what that is? Bibby ring a bell to you?
With Queso facing separate murder trials, facing a life sentence might come as a relief to him, as it is likely that he could also be sent to death row. Glock 9. Orlando rapper Glock 9 broke through with hits such as Crayola and 10% and was even signed to Birdman's Cash Money Records. He also featured on YNW Melly's song 223S, and now both rappers are seemingly facing life behind bars. Life in prison for Glock 9 is a possibility, but he is also currently serving 7 years in jail for identity theft and weapons charges. Despite being an up-and-coming rapper, he fraudulently applied for and received $10,000 from the Federal Paycheck Protection Program funds, which was supposed to support struggling businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. But this crime was minuscule in terms of what he was charged with in January 2021. The rapper is faced with 5 counts of attempted second-degree murder against him. According to the FBI, Glock 9 is the leader of the All Family No Friends gang, and the hip-hop beef between Glock 9 and his fellow Orlando rapper Hot Boy has escalated into a gang feud between Glock 9's All Family No Friends and the Hot Boy affiliated gang 438. Glock 9 is even accused of firing a gun into an Orlando home in June 2021, which was allegedly intended to target another rapper. But there was no rapper inside this home, and he was instead shooting at a home containing a woman and her children. Thankfully, nobody was hurt during this incident. According to Hip Hop DX, a witness told detectives, Glock 9 wants to be the only rapper coming from Orlando, and Glock 9 has been in trouble with the law for most of his teen and early adult years. When he was just 15, he was arrested for shooting another teenager, which left them hospitalized. He has been in and out of trouble with the law for a large portion of his life. Sadly, the deal with Cash Money Records, a label known for lifting up the likes of Lil Wayne, Drake, and Nicki Minaj, did not inspire him to stay focused on his music career. That being said, sometimes you can pick and choose that life.